Now, if he would have chased the guy all over the field just to hit him with the helmet, then yeah, he should be led out in handcuffs. But you can't be the aggressor like Rudolph was, and then when you end up on the business end of the fight, cry foul and play victim and act like you did nothing wrong. What it do, YouTube? I'm Ricky, and I'm Ricardo, and we are not twins. That is me, and today we are going to talk about a very nasty fight that took place near the conclusion of an NFL game between the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers that ended with the Browns defensive end Myles Garrett removing the helmet off of Pittsburgh quarterback Mason Rudolph and actually hitting him in the head with it. Now, before we get into the meat of this, we're going to get this little disclaimer out of the way. Okay, we've never played a single down of organized football, so there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this country who have forgotten more about on-the-field and locker room football culture than we'll ever know. However, most of the people who are in control of these players' fate have played neither, and since they, and by extension we, are responsible for these players making hundreds of thousands of dollars a season, we are entitled to an opinion concerning their behavior. Now, as a result of this incident, Myles Garrett has been suspended for at the very least the rest of the season and possibly forever for what amounts to felony assault, while Rudolph, who figuratively threw the first punch, gets no punishment at all, and he's even floating the option of pressing criminal charges. Other me, you have the floor. This is a victimless incident. Clearly, Rudolph wrote a check his ass couldn't cash. Now, it would seem as if I'm about to go on a tangent, but I'm going somewhere with this, so bear with me. Despite more Super Bowl victories on a dynasty-like team, I will never regard Tom Brady as being a better quarterback than Joe Montana. Why? Because Joe played in an era that didn't have defensive receivers and tippy-tap roughing the passer penalties. If a defensive back was within 3 feet of you, you were getting hit whether you had the ball or not. You get up, you pull the grass from your face mask, and if you were coherent enough, you got back in the hole and called the next play. Quarterbacks today they have the luxury of not having to worry about their receivers being killed by throwing it across the middle. They have the luxury of not worrying about a defensive back placing his helmet in between the numbers and breaking ribs. Targeting didn't exist. I say that to say this. Looking at the video, Garrett didn't even hit Rudolph. He tackled him. So unless something else is going on down there, Rudolph didn't have cause to be angry. And it was clear Garrett didn't know that Rudolph had already released the ball, so he followed through with the tackle. Rudolph didn't like that, so what does he do? He kicks Garrett in the groin and tried to rip off his helmet. Well, he failed. So Garrett rips off Rudolph's helmet and held it in his hands. It should have ended right there. Rudolph had every opportunity to take that L and walk away, even when his own players intervened and got between them. He lost that game and he lost that personal battle. He chose to continue his aggression and he took a helmet to the face for it. Now, am I victim blaming here? Absolutely not. And that's because you need a victim in the first place. Okay? Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Look, there's a ton of things going on in a pile after the play that the cameras, as sophisticated as they are, simply don't catch. Face masks are being tugged, hands are stepped on by cleats, eyes are being poked, mouth guards are ripped out, and every now and then a helmet is ripped off. And never has the response been hitting someone in the head with a piece of equipment out of anger. Okay, my teacher wife once told me, people don't make you angry. People do things and you allow yourself to become angry. And then you are responsible for your own actions. And as Garrett was remorseful after the fact, that solidifies his guilt. Then why is Rudolph not being held responsible? Hell, he didn't even acknowledge that he was in the wrong too. At least Garrett gave us that. A lot of people think that while Garrett should have been definitely punished, it's seen as overkill, especially since the guy who started it is not getting punished at all. Rudolph was clearly the aggressor here. Now, did he think Garrett was going to react the way he did? Probably not. But he had to expect a reaction. Irregardless, that's not a word. Up until this point, Garrett had won the game. Up 21-7 with seconds left. He won the battle of helmet pulling. He got kicked in the groin and had his own helmet pulled after an innocent mistake. But once he pulled off Rudolph's helmet, he was the one who should have walked away. Because up until this point, he was the victor. He was the hero of all defensive backs who stood up to prima donna quarterbacks. He was the victim that exerted justifiable retaliation by successfully ripping off the other guy's helmet. Then he had to ruin the ride by hitting him with it. Most people seem to think that Garrett was punished for ripping off the helmet. He wasn't. He was punished for striking another player with it. And with the way defensive backs are crippled by regulations and how they should play, I was with him up until that point. What if he would have concussed that man? What if he would have cracked his skull? What if he would have ended that man's career? It completely overshadows the defense of, well, the other guy started it. Well, Garrett's overreaction ended it and maybe his career. In this age of head injuries taking center stage, regardless of who started it, the last thing a player should want to do is assault another player in the head on the field with a piece of equipment. I mean, dude's getting bullied and shoots up his school. Nobody's concerned about what the bully did at that point. Well, they should. Granted, hitting the man in the head with the helmet was not the right thing to do, even in retaliation, and he did deserve to get fined and suspended. But an indefinite suspension while nothing happens to the guy who started it, that's ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to hold Garrett out until he pleads his case for reinstatement, then Rudolph should at the very least sit out one game. But if you don't punish Rudolph for starting it, then Garrett should sit out the rest of the season for the assault and return for game 1 next season. Now, if he would have chased the guy all over the field just to hit him with the helmet, then yeah, he should be let out in handcuffs. But you can't be the aggressor like Rudolph was, and then when you end up on the business end of the fight, cry foul and play victim and act like you did nothing wrong. Both men are at fault here. What say you, YouTube? Was the reaction justified? Should Rudolph should have been punished as well, or was being humiliated punishment enough? Leave your opinions in the comments below, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up so I know you liked it. Share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can get all updates as they happen. And I've challenged myself. Have you? Over and out.